and Chris Bosh, people think that, they'll finish out in the playoffs and whatever. Listen,
no way.
Whenever you have two of, I would guess 2 of the 25 best players in the NBA at any given point, I think you're going to be okay, given what they have on the bench, given Pat Riley. I would say they'd be okay. And I really like Chris Bosh in this role. I think Chris Bosh is, I guess, when I was thinking about this, and everybody was making a big hoo-ha about Kevin Love, I just don't see it. That's just me. I've seen lots of big guys who could, shoot the thing and rebound it. Bob McAdoo, really big guys, 6'11", 7 foot, who could do that. And maybe I haven't seen enough of him. I'm not that impressed. I have to watch him some, but I like what Chris Bosh is going to bring without the constraints of having everything go through LeBron James. And so I think in his new role, he's going to be just like we remembered pre-Big 3 days. He's going to be the leader. He's going to be the rebounder. He's going to be the focal point of that team with a diminished Dwayne Wade. He will be the focal point of that team. So there's going to be a lot of rumbling and tumbling in the Eastern Conference. But Cleveland, again, and Chicago will be at the top.
Yeah, you mentioned Miami. I'm glad you did, because I've been saying I've got them in. I think they finished top 4 in the East here this year, assuming nothing too bad injury-wise, and not a good sign for them that Dwayne Wade already hobbling in the first game of the season last night. But Bosh, you said it, 26 and 15 last night. Norris Cole, Cleveland State Viking, representing 23 points, got his career high as he's now the starting point guard there. Yeah, I think Miami is definitely. I said, man, I'm amazed how people. LeBron left, I get it, but everybody just wrote them off like they're just going to not even make the playoffs. I said, man, assuming that they don't have any crazy injuries, I still think they're a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. So I'm glad you brought them up as well. They played that Wizards team. And Wizards and Charlotte, man, those young teams coming. The East is going to be a lot more interesting this year than it's been in the last few years, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Wizards, unfortunately Bradley Beal is out at the beginning of the year, but they've got a nice assortment of players. They play well together, yep. And so I really believe that the Wizards are going to present, especially when the guys get all healthy and everything comes back together for that team. I think they're going to be a very formidable team in the Eastern Conference to the Cavs and the Bulls.
Going to be a lot of fun to watch it. It starts tonight for the Cavs down at the Q. For those of you that haven't heard, they've got the game scheduled tonight. Hey, while I've got you, BSK, Browns last week, they got through it. Some people, hey, well, it's ugly. It's a victory. Browns did what they had to do. That being said, you want to continue to get better going forward. Where you at coming out of the Raiders, heading into the Bucs? They bring those big wide receivers. They've got some good guys up front in that front 7. So definitely some things to worry about. Where you at coming out of the Raiders and heading into the Bucs with the Browns?
You know what? This is a situation. I told you about this 2-3 weeks ago, that I believed that all 3 teams could beat the Browns. And the reason why is because all 3 teams have implements. All 3 teams have talent. All 3 teams have a young quarterback who can make plays. All 3 teams are going to be lightly regarded. All 3 teams are going to be discounted. So when you add in all those factors, and by the way, the Browns are injured and banged up, nicked up themselves. They're not playing very well because of their offensive line deficiencies right now, the defensive line deficiencies, and they got to bring those things together, or they're in a danger of being beaten by the Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers have made some player moves in the last few days, and they're not playing really well right now, so it's hard to imagine them winning against the Cleveland Browns. But it's like I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, you got to take care of your knitting and play the game the right way, play the game cleanly, because if not, you're going to mess around and get beat. So I think going into the game this weekend, I think this should be an easier game than the previous two against Jacksonville and Oakland. But if the Browns don't take care of their business, they're going to be disappointed, and you fans are going to be disappointed too. So I think the main focus of the Cleveland Browns this week is to play this team as though it were Seattle, San Francisco, Denver, New England. Play them as though they were the best team in the NFL. That way they don't leave any room for doubt. They don't leave any room for getting got at the end by this team. And it was just fortunate that they didn't get got by Oakland at the end of that game. So they really have to mind their lessons. And if they do that, they'll win this game rather easily. If not, they could be in a dogfight for 60 minutes. And, of course, the last time these two teams met, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got Cleveland Browns, where we didn't figure they would. Same thing with Jacksonville. Almost the same thing with Oakland. So just because they've got this stretch where they could go 5-3, they should be 6-2 or 7-1, but it's possibly 5-3. If they get it, they'll be 5-3, looking at another stern test the week after. So there's no room to rest. They just got to handle their business.
No, for sure. And, looking at some of the I'll tell you what, you mentioned being banged up, and that's something else. Defensive backs already going to be a worry for the Browns this week, and we can get more technical about it tomorrow. But with Quan Williams perhaps not being able to get back in there, that's the one thing, the size of those wide receivers. Speaking of Vincent Jackson, I noticed, I saw you tweet the other day with the trade deadline up, because the Bucs did make some moves. We were talking about it on Monday here, about how that may be a different team. They did move out their starting safety. They moved up a backup linebacker. But I was surprised because Vincent Jackson was a name that had been bandied about as them perhaps moving him. And I noticed you even tweeted you were surprised the Browns didn't perhaps take a flyer and make an offer there for doing something. That's a big wide receiver there. But he was one I was kind of surprised that he was still on the Bucs after the trade deadline, because there was a lot of talk that they were looking to move him too.
Yeah, I think the Cleveland Browns would have served themselves well by getting Vincent Jackson. I understand there were salary impediments, though, and so they decided to pass on that. But I think the Browns need to be still scouring the waiver wire and trying to find some other receivers that could come in here and help them, although Andrew Hawkins has played very, very well. And I believe that he's going to have his work cut out for him. I hope that Miles Austin steps up a little bit more. I don't believe he has a lot left, but if he does, I think that could alleviate some of the problems with the receiving corps until Josh Gordon returns. And so the Browns could be looking at another opportunity for them to score some points, which they really need, because except for the last couple of weeks, they really had been fluid on offense. Their running game was clicking, and of course, I've told you guys this, when the running game clicks, Hoyer has time because the play action works, and so he can pass from a clean pocket. When he can pass from a clean pocket, doesn't matter who your receivers are, they'll be wide open. And so he can hit them. When the offense stays on the field, the defense gets rest. And when the defense gets rest, they can play better than the paltry performances that they've put out there now. But I must admit, they've been better in stretches. They have to string together a full 60-minute game. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you all is the problems that they're having along their lines. And I've always said this, for as long as I've been on the air around here, going back to the mid-'90s, I've always told you that football was played from the lines out, not from the skill positions in. So if you have a good line, or if you have good lines, they control the flow of the game. And if they control the flow of the game, you can do what you need to do, both offensively and defensively, on the back end and with your backs and receivers. So health is the number one thing. And the second thing is they have to get to playing better. I mean, there's no two ways about that. They can't be the worst run defense in the league and the worst pass defense. I mean, that's unheard of.
Pick one.
Yeah, exactly. They can't be that bad. They cannot. They're not allowed to be that bad if they want to win some games and find themselves in the playoffs. Because even at 5-3, I look at them as not legitimate. Because I know Pittsburgh is legitimate. I know Baltimore is legitimate. And how about this? I know Cincinnati is legitimate. And they've got 2 games with Cincinnati and another game with Baltimore. So the playoffs go through their division. And, of course, they've got a pretty daunting slate out of division. So it's going to get a whole lot tougher after next week for the Cleveland Browns. You can believe that. But here's one thing I want to throw in before we get out of here. Not on the Brown subject, it's on Ohio State. I was looking at Ohio State last week, and I thought, Ohio State should, have a chance to get back in the national title picture. But as I saw the ranking, it came out, I think they were 16th in the top 25, feeding into the 14 playoff. As my outrage was fueled, and I went and did some research, and I just looked at the way they play, looked at the game, looked at the strategy they employ both offensively and defensively. I looked at the strategy that they employ in recruiting, and I came to this conclusion. They don't deserve to be any higher than 16 because as I look up above Ohio State in the rankings, there are very few teams they can beat, and especially in that time of year. And really, this team proved it to us last year. All this largesse, all this 24 in a row, they may never lose again, blah, 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 noise. That's all it was. And they got skunked by Michigan State and Clemson. Couldn't stop Clemson, although Clemson's defense is no bargain. And they couldn't score on Michigan State. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us right back where we started with Urban Meyer's football. I hate, capitalize it, underline it, italicize it, bold it, Urban Meyer's football. I hate Urban Meyer's football for this reason. Urban Meyer's football is non-Ohio State friendly because there are a few things that you come to count on with Ohio State football, and that is an excellent I-back, tailback, running back, functional quarterback, an excellent at all times offensive line, tight ends who can play, receivers, how about this, who can receive the ball. I get so disgusted with wide receivers who can't receive. They can't catch. They're inconsistent catching the rock. And if you are an inconsistent wide receiver at the Ohio State University, how is that you have a scholarship? How is that? It's like being a garbage man and you can't take out the garbage. What is that? It's like being a cook and you can't cook. It's like being a lawyer and you can't lawyer up. Are you kidding? It's like being a talk show host and you can't talk. Give me a break, man. I think the way that this team is put together is all wrong for Ohio State. Works for Utah, works for Bowling Green, works for down Florida. I don't care if they are in the best conference. We see that Florida is non-sustainable right now with having Urban Meyer had been there and having the conference in talent, coaching, and all of that. So it's not. When you look at Ohio State, the one thing that we do know, it's consistently sustainable. Go back 60 years. When has Ohio State been out of the country's consciousness? Never. Not once. Not once. The worst that they've been is, 6-6 and 11, and under Coop the first year. Other than that, they've been on the country's consciousness. And when I say out of it, I mean 8-4, 6-6. Give me a break. These teams are out of the money, finishing under 500. So Ohio State is sustainable. They are a magnet for great football players who want to play in the pros at all positions. Doesn't matter. Defensive ends, defensive tackles, linebackers, defensive backs. What? Are you kidding me? So I think the Urban Meyer's football is non-friendly to Ohio State, and it needs to be addressed. It really needs to be addressed. But I just wanted to mention that before I